Hi there, I am Paul Caputo, and this is the Baseball by Design podcast, broadcasting live, as always, from the Helmet Sunday Hall of Fame in my basement in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm very pleased to be joined by my friend, Philip Guiry, who has an awesome storied career in minor league baseball, and like many people in minor league baseball, is no longer in minor league baseball. So Philip was with the Bakersfield Blaze when I attended a game there in 2014 as part of my Baseball Palooza road trip, which I know I've mentioned a couple of times on this podcast. The Bakersfield Blaze, as you will hear from Philip, have an amazing history and really a unique story. Philip, thank you for being here.
Oh, not a pleasure. Not a pleasure? No, my pleasure. It's not a problem. My pleasure.
Not a pleasure. Well, again, I said it.
Miserable.
I said it would be unique, and you're the first person to say not a pleasure when I said thank you for being here.
Not a problem. My pleasure. Glad to be here. Good to see you again, because I can see you.
We can see each other. It's an audio medium, but we are talking face to face through the magic of Zoom. I want to set the stage for this conversation because it's one of my all-time favorite baseball experiences was meeting you for the first time in Bakersfield as part of the first ever, the inaugural, it's kind of a prequel to the Baseball Paloozas. It was just my friend Jeremy and me driving in his Prius. And on this Baseball Palooza 2014, the very first one that we ever did, we started with the Lake Elsinore Storm. And then the next day we drove up to Bakersfield to see the Blaze. And then after that, we went down to I want to make sure I get these in the right order. The Rancho Cucamonga Quakes were next. And then we finished with the Inland Empire 66ers. And our friends made fun of us because I flew from Colorado to Los Angeles, and then we drove east. We drove away from the rollerbladers and Santa Monica Pier and the beaches and the palm trees, and we drove inland to watch minor league baseball. Not least of which was our experience in Bakersfield. So,
well, it's funny. You just did the whole Cal League South, yep. RIP. With the exception of the High Desert Mavericks, you missed probably the most unique baseball experience in all of baseball in High Desert.
We drove past the High Desert Mavericks, but they weren't playing. In fact, they were playing on the road at one of the teams that we saw, while we were driving around. So
there was the wind in that stadium was so intense that we had a second baseman or shortstop, Devin Lohman, I think, who had a pop-up literally to the pitcher, and it got high enough that the wind took it over the fence for a home run. And everybody on the field laughed while he jogged around the bases, except the pitcher. The pitcher did not, but he just lifted this ball high enough, and the wind would blow like 35, 40 miles straight out, and he just chuckled around the bases.
Well, I wouldn't laugh either if I was the pitcher there, right? Because that goes against your stats. That goes on the box score. So we drove to Bakersfield. We found our hotel. We got some Basque food because there's a huge Basque population in Bakersfield, and so that was cool. And then I
hated Basque food.
You hated Basque food? A lot of lamb.
Yeah, I'm a vegetarian to begin with. Yeah. So that took out a lot of the food. And B, I don't like communal eating with people I don't know. So sitting at a table with people I didn't know, I was like, man, I don't want to talk to y'all.
That is, well, I'm grateful that you're here on the podcast then, knowing that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Like I said, this is no pleasure at all for me.
This is no pleasure. So anyhow, we drive up to Sam Lynn Ballpark, which, first of all, I would like to ask you, because I'm just gonna tell the story and have you interrupt me along the way. Please tell the listener, if you would, the unique thing about Sam Lynn Ballpark regarding its geographic orientation.
I was going to say the unique thing. There are a lot of unique things about the Bakersfield Blaze. But Sam Lynn Ballpark, which was built in 1941, when local Coca-Cola bottler Sam Lynn I think he invented the Cal League. He went to New York, he set it all up. That was in December of 1940. He died in like January of 41, and the season started in April of 41. So he never even saw a game there. At the stadium he built on the Kern County Fairgrounds in a pre-existing track with pre-existing grandstands where the home plate faced due west. Due west. So I don't know if anyone here watches baseball, but due west is a bad place for a baseball field to face.
What with the sun setting out there?
Almost every day. You can guarantee, like, you can't guarantee every day the sun's gonna set, but like I'm gonna say like 365 out of the 300, 364 to 365, that sun is gonna set right in center field.
So this is, obviously this is a podcast about branding. So we'll just throw this out here first. That was one theory that was put forth as to why the team was called the Blaze. The fact that, the blazing sun was blasting batters in the eye while they were trying to bat. Can you confirm or deny that theory?
That is a false statement.
Okay.
The last thing the Bakersfield Blaze want to do is to remind you to come out to a game at 8:00 at night when we start, because we have to wait for the sun to set, when it's still 105 degrees outside with no breeze and air so thick you could see what you're breathing. We did not want to remind you that there was a blazing sun.
Perfect. Thank you. So that theory has now been discounted.
It is just blazing hot in Bakersfield, California. So there really was no like way around it. So like we didn't want to remind you that it was blazing hot, but we didn't have to, because it just was. So the Bakersfield Blaze, I'm not gonna say that baseball's never been hotter than the Bakersfield Blaze, because that is a Jacksonville Suns jingle.
Oh, okay.
And maybe actually the Hagerstown Suns too, since they were owned by the same guy. I don't know if you know this, but the Hagerstown Suns logo is the Jacksonville Suns logo from the 60s with updated sunglasses.
Updated sunglasses. So maybe more stylish, more of like an 80s style sunglasses.
He's got some Oakleys on now, but he used to have like some really square, like cool, like Ray-Bans on. Ray-Bans because of the Suns. Anyway, yeah. Baseball has never been hotter than Jacksonville Suns. That's true. RIP.
Yep.
But the Bakersfield Blaze, it's just hot, man. It's just hot. So maybe they were called the Blaze because it was hot, but I don't want to tell you that because it's 110 degrees outside, and I expect you to bring your children and buy bottles of water.
Well, the first time you and I communicated, I sent you an email to let you know, hey, I was writing for sportslogos.net. I still am writing for sportslogos.net, but I reached out to you and said,
a website I love, PS.
Thanks very much. Chris Creamer, I have mentioned that to Chris Creamer because you've told me that before. And this was, when I started writing for Sports Logos, like that was awesome for me to like be able to reach out to teams and say, hey, I'm Paul, I write for sportslogos.net. And they're like, wow, we love that site. So I have been riding Chris Creamer's coattails all around minor league baseball parks, of America. So, appreciate that. And maybe that encouraged you to respond when I said, hey, I would like to write a story about why the Blaze are called the Blaze. And I got a very hearty response from you. I'm not sure if you remember this, but what you said to me was essentially, I wonder if I still have the email. We're called the Blaze because it's blazing hot. End of story.
Yep.
And I was like, hey, this is going to be my shortest article ever. This is great. But obviously we ended up, the story went from there. We got into a lot more details. So again, I want to preface all of these stories that we're telling with, I loved this experience. I loved going to a Blaze game. Part of that was getting to, to meet you and have you show us around the ballpark and tell us all of these amazing stories that go with the Blaze itself. So we drive up to the ballpark. From a purely objective aesthetic point of view, Sam Lynn Ballpark, it's not, the shining ballpark stadium on the hill that people are going to, write home about.
HOK did not build this ballpark.
So aesthetically, maybe it's not, it's probably the main reason that the team was contracted by minor league baseball. I don't know if that's fair to say. But in 2000,
the ballpark is a major factor on the contraction, I believe. Yeah.
Right. So as a facility, maybe not the, the example of the best facilities for minor league ballparks, but an absolute fabulous experience as a fan, right? Like, especially when you get the great Philip Guiry to show you around and regale you with stories all night long. So we drive up,
which
You
I do want to say was not just you. I would do it for anybody who showed up. If you showed up at 1 in the afternoon and I was outside, like, blowing down the stands or rebuilding pipes or whatever it is I did there, and you're like, hey, this is a weird ballpark. Tell me about it. I would just tell you about it. I would take you on a tour. If the team was on the road, I'd take you in clubhouses. Whatever you want to do, I will show you.
I was so excited to get into all these stories, and you've reminded me by saying that you were there to regale everyone with stories. What was your title with the Blaze?
I was the assistant general manager, which no one can see me, but I don't know that I actually looked like an assistant general manager of a minor league baseball team. Like, if you lined us all up and you were to point out the assistant general manager, you would point me out as a janitor, not an assistant, not as an AGM. But I was the AGM, which technically stood for I generally managed to assist everybody.
and then you moved from the Blaze. Before the Blaze were contracted, you moved from the Blaze to the Charleston River Dogs.
Yeah,
and you worked there for a little while, and then now
where I actually was just the janitor. I wasn't the AGM there. I was the janitor who would yell at the promo guy about his promos.
I'm pretty sure that that's not true, but we'll for the sake of the podcast.
Oh no, you could call him. His name's Nate. He will tell you I yelled at him an awful lot, but I yelled at him because I cared so much.
Right. What I'm saying is, I'm pretty sure that you weren't just the janitor. Yeah. So to paint a picture here, if we were to line you up with like Jason Worth and the mascot for the Northwest Arkansas Naturals, like in a police lineup,
it would be hard to tell. I own a Williamsport Crosscutters hat. Because I look like the logo for the Williamsport Crosscutters. And at a winter meetings in Orlando, it was right after the Red Sox won the World Series. And I swear to God, everyone there thought I was Johnny Gomes. I got asked for more autographs. At one point, we were having lunch with the Bakersfield Blaze manager at the time, a gentleman by the name of Ken Griffey Sr., who was a former big league baseball player of some renown.
It's possible listeners to this podcast have heard of Ken Griffey Sr.
If they're true baseball fans, they've probably heard of Ken Griffey Sr. But we were standing in the lobby and we're talking with Ken Griffey Sr., who's a legitimate baseball star, like a Reds Hall of Famer, And someone walked up and asked me for my autograph because they thought I was Johnny Gomes. And I was like, yo, this is Ken Griffey Sr. I'm an idiot. But I was like, hey man, I'm not who you think I am. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. And he walked away.
That's great. Okay. So anyway, we get there to this ball game. You're regaling us with stories. You're showing us around. You bring us into the press box, such as it is, which is essentially sort of a semi, basically. It's sort of
it's a single wide tin trailer is what it is.
Right. But it was A, air conditioned, and B, not in the sun. So, and had a refrigerator in it with beverages that you directed us to. So that was great.
Yep. We always had a little product up there from the local brewery.
So you invited us to partake in that. We certainly appreciated that. And so then we get to, and again, we're talking about why the Blaze are called the Blaze. So then we get to theory number 2 as to why the Blaze are called the Blaze, which is another story that you tell us about a game against the Visalia Oaks, in which the sprinklers went off. And I will ask you, if you would, to take over that story from there.
So this was in the this must have been the early 90s, probably early 90s. The Oaks are playing, and the groundskeeper went home at some point during the game because, as you know, baseball groundskeepers routinely just leave in the middle of a game. They just get the game started and they're out. They're usually the least involved and laziest people in the ballpark are the groundskeepers who show up at 6 a.m. and leave at 4 a.m. every day.
Right.
So, but for some reason, in the early 90s, this guy went home. And when he went home, his automatic sprinklers turned on during the game. And the mascot, who, if this was the early 90s with the Bakersfield Dodgers, it's definitely Roger Dodger, which I must insist you Google. I know that the Bakersfield Blaze Twitter page at Bakersfield Blaze, who tweets from hell now, they have put up a picture of Roger Dodger. You have to go see this monstrosity. It is the most glorious nightmare fuel that minor league baseball has ever wrought.
If I can interject too about that old Bakersfield Dodgers logo, you showed me the cap that they had that was essentially the Brooklyn Dodgers logo. Like that was
just the Brooklyn Dodgers.
That was a great use of that Brooklyn B for a Dodgers affiliate in Bakersfield. Very clever.
Yeah, very clever. I have issues with the LA Dodgers using the Brooklyn Dodgers logo. I understand, but I mean, y'all left, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just take it. You're not Brooklyn, but I'm not gonna get mad.
It's a little bit like the Carolina Hurricanes using the old Hartford Whalers logo. I agree.
Which the Hartford Whalers logo, Pucky the Whale, which is a great name for a mascot.
Totally.
Also, one of the greatest logos in the history of logos. Just have a whale with an ers at the end. My God, these people are geniuses. They're geniuses.
It was like the first ever emoji.
Yeah, I know. Whale ers. God, Pucky's the best, man. I love terrible, like, old mascots. I love Pucky the Whale. I love the Kane County Cougars logo that was done in MS Paint. Yep. I love the Yakima Bears with the bat in his mouth that's kind of like janky looking. These are my favorite. You
may be the first person ever to say to bring up the Hartford Whalers having one of the all-time great logos and not be talking about the old counterform H and the W and the whale tail like that.
Yeah, that's great. Look, real clever. You look like the FedEx logo.
With the arrow.
With the arrow, exactly.
Yeah.
Great design work there. I'm not here for design work. I'm here for a whale with ers at the end. They literally just put ERS at the butt of a whale. Whalers.
So we got a little
anyway.
derailed.
So the mascot thinks that I'll step on this sprinkler head, and that will stop the field from getting wet, so that we can continue to play baseball when the groundskeeper finally gets back from Trout's or whatever dive bar he's hanging out in Oildale and turns the sprinklers off.
Yeah.
While he does that, he just floods third base. Because if you step on the sprinkler head, it doesn't stop.
No. The water's got to go somewhere.
It disperses the water in a wide area. You step on it, it just floods right there. So he flooded it, and then the Visalia pitching coach or third base coach or someone was like, "Hey, just pour kerosene on it. It'll burn all the water off," which is true. It did burn the water off.
Yeah.
And it can be used to dry the clay. It'll harden. I mean, I think water and fire is how you make like pottery. So it's probably not the best idea for ground balls. But anyway, they burned third base grass. And at the time, Sandlin Ballpark didn't have what you call warning tracks. There was no warning track around the ballpark. Those were put in 2010 when I moved there. I like me and the groundskeeper, Jason Smith, and a guy named Brian Cool, we put the warning track in. 3 steps and a bang. Before that, it was like bang. So
there's no steps and a bang. It was just bang.
Just bang. There's a lot of foul territory. It's all grass, and now it is completely scorched for the entire season.
Because you set it on fire. Well, you didn't set it on,
but water.
So the Visalia Oaks assistant coach or one of the coaches says, pour some kerosene on it, set it on fire, and everyone there is just like, great idea.
Great idea, And honestly, I mean, like, I don't know, when is pouring kerosene and setting on fire like not a good idea?
So then the rest of the season is played with this scorched half of the field, essentially.
Yep.
And that still, though, is not why the team is called the Blaze.
Not called the Blaze because of the blazed field.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with the marijuana laws in California either.
All right. Do you know the actual answer to the question? Why is this team called the Blaze?
I assume just because it was blazing hot. That's my answer. It's just blazing hot out here, man. Like, baseball's literally never been hotter than the Bakersfield Blaze.
So
maybe Midland. I don't know how cold how Midland, Texas gets, but it's a desert. It's got to get pretty hot, right?
I would expect Midland, Texas gets pretty hot. We'll have to talk to the Rockhounds about this. But so for a team that was trying to not remind people that it was hot, first of all, the team's called the Blaze.
Yeah.
They've had a series of logos that got sort of farther and farther away from actual flames over the years. And so
Yeah.
I do want to address the logos a little bit here. There was one used from 95 to 2000, another one used from 2001 to 2010, and then the final one was used from 2011 to 2016. The first one, 95 to 2000, widely regarded, I think, including by you, as the best logo the team's had.
The best Blaze logo that they ever had. And if you've never seen it, you can close your eyes and think about baseball logos from the 90s, and you will come up with what it is.
It's sort of a clip art baseball with some red flames,
clip art flames,
and then the word Blaze in sort of a dark blue. So it's like, it's sort of the primary colors. It's a dark blue, red, and there's a little bit of yellow outline there. The origins of this logo, do you know the origins of that logo?
Like where like who created it?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't Dan Simon, who I know is a friend of yours, who did an incredible logo for you.
Did Dan Simon do an amazing logo for this podcast, or what? I mean,
I tell you, I saw it on Twitter for a week, and I was like, it didn't even dawn on me that it was your Twitter account. I was just like, that's a good ass logo. And then one day it clicked, and I was like, oh my god, that's so good. So yeah, he did a great job. I love that logo. Anyway, he didn't do the Blaze logo. Brandiose, I don't think existed. It wasn't some sort of weird design firm in LA. It was I believe it was Jack Patton, owner and president of Bakersfield Blaze, in the bleachers with a woman named Sandra, who was a booster until the day the Blaze died, and a wonderful woman. And she drew it up on a cocktail napkin and said, should be the logo. And he said, that's a pretty good logo. So that's where the logo came from, was a fan in the stands who was like, oh, y'all changed to the Blaze? That's cool. How about this bee with a flaming baseball in it? Done.
Perfect. This was the market research. This was focus groups in 1995, right? All right.
And is that better? I mean, logos now, team names, the nicknames, I feel like we really jumped the shark on some of this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, no disrespect to any teams out there, but like, I think there's too much market research going into this.
Well, I think it's definitely true that like even a lot of major league teams right now are never going to survive the first focus group. If you're the Phillies, like my Phillies, and you're bringing Phillies as a nickname to a market research focus group, no way it makes it out of that first round. So I think there's a lot of classic names out there, a lot of classic logos, like your Kane County Cougars original MS Paint version.
So good.
Yeah, never would have made it out of focus groups now. So I think it's obviously a different environment out there now. And there's things that you used to see, you're not going to see anymore. And there's a certain nostalgic attachment to those. One of the logos that I think there is probably not a nostalgic attachment to, it's the second Blaze logo, which you described as the graffiti logo.
Yeah.
And it has sort of two parts. There's sort of a script logo, and there's the essentially, I thought it was like a Toronto maple leaf or something, but you disavowed me of that. We're getting into another sense of the word Blaze here with this logo. I'll let you take it from here.
So I think the graffiti logo is a lot of angles, isn't it? It's like a lot of sharp angles. It's kind of like that classic like S thing people always draw, it's like that, but like with a B and L and A Z. It's very angular and weird. And
it looks like it belongs on a skateboard.
Yeah. It's very, and even though it's like, what you said, 2000 is when they did that?
2001 to 2010.
Yeah, it still feels like very 1998 to me. Like it definitely seems like it was like not as cutting edge in 2001 as maybe they had hoped. But they topped it with which I think is officially a California oak leaf on fire.
Oh, California oak leaf. So not a Toronto maple leaf.
Not like Toronto, but the Visalia oaks are named after something. you
Sure.
know? And so I think technically it's a blazing oak leaf, but ask anyone who owns a hat, who bought a t-shirt, they just bought it because it looked like a pot leaf. It looks like a burning pot leaf.
It looks like a burning pot leaf with a butterfly coming out of it, because
Oh yeah, the BB.
there's a bee and a bee, sort of like, I just put my hands, I'm gesturing to you with this, and I put my hands right in front of the microphones.
You're a
that's
professional here.
high quality podcasting right here. It's a bee and a bee backed up to one another, sort of symmetrically, and so they look like, I almost did it again. They look like a butterfly. So it looks like a butterfly with a flaming pot leaf behind it. And then
yes.
And then you've got this black and orange. So the colors on this one are black and orange and yellow, essentially, and then there's red. So, and you told me when we talked about this logo the first time that black is a reference to
the oil industry. I don't know. I mean, if you ever go to Bakersfield, and Bakersfield gets a bad reputation for everything, and some of it is earned, and some of it I think is just like pop culture, ingrained. Like Bakersfield, it's a butt of every Johnny Carson joke and like whatever. It's easy target, and some of that is true. But at the heart, Bakersfield's a good city. It's an interesting town, and every single parking lot has a pump jack in it, which is pumping oil. I think every single parking lot has a pump jack. And if you go to Oildale, which is the north part of town, where the ballpark sat right on the dry riverbed of the Kern River, and across the way was Oildale. And if you read Grapes of Wrath, when they get to Bakersfield, that's where they go. But
yeah.
All of Oildale, they have this entire section. It looks like an apocalyptic movie of pump jacks, just all that, just pump jacks. So the oil industry there is what keeps that city alive. But the other part is agriculture. A lot of your cuties, pistachios all come from Bakersfield. Bolt House is there, so they've got those weird smoothies that were kind of the rage in like 2009, I guess. But they also invented baby carrots. Baby carrots are a Bakersfield invention. So, and if you want to know a secret, it's just regular sized carrots that were ugly that they cut into smaller carrots. There's nothing baby about these carrots.
That is the greatest secret ever. Just like that, baby carrots are just repurposed larger carrots that were too ugly to sell.
Yep, that's all they are. All they are.
So. I kind of love this.
So you got the black from the oil, you get the orange from the agriculture, the tangerines and the citrus we grow there.
Well, and then obviously it all folds into sort of, all the warm colors obviously reinforce this whole notion of, fire and flames.
Yeah.
And then we move on to, this is honestly, all right, I'm not trying to talk bad about the Blaze because I love them. May they rest in peace.
You can talk about the Blaze. They don't exist anymore. And the only people that are going to defend the Blaze are me, Tim Wheeler, and maybe Dan Bespris, the broadcaster, the last at its demise. We are the last people who would defend, except for Sandra. Sandra will probably still out there. She's probably at a train robbers game right now, defending that team. So the last logo though, the script B.
Well, the script, but I want to just mention real quick. You said the train robbers, the Bakersfield Train Robbers are the team that's playing there in Sam Lynn Ballpark now. And they're a Pecos League independent team, and so they're they've got a cool, fun logo, and
they also have a great MS Paint logo.
Yeah, they totally do. Yeah, and they've been sort of all over. They've played in various, I think 3 or 4 different cities before they got to Bakersfield, and have always been the Train Robbers, which is sort of interesting.
Yeah,
but yeah, this script B that I have mentioned kind of looks like that font that everybody has on their computer called Brush Script, but it's not Brush Script. Yeah, and you've told me before what it's actually called.
It's Mascot MVB. Mascot MVB. And I found it, I don't remember how I found that out. But I was just Googling something. And there it was. And I was like, yeah, that's my B. And then we downloaded the font and we used it in all our marketing stuff. I don't know how we never, how that wasn't in the paperwork, that B, so the pot leaf B ended like just before the last regime, which was me and Liz Martin, the GM, and Debris, and later, Mikey Candela sort of ran it then. But like we took that over, and somehow we didn't have the paperwork on the logo. Like,
there's no like graphic and identity standards manual that came with the ballpark.
I mean, there might have been, but seriously, when Liz and I showed up, we had like 3 laptop computers, all of them with passwords we didn't know. And then finally, when someone broke into the passwords, we just found computers infected with porn viruses.
No.
We had to get all new computers. So maybe there was paperwork in there, but I, as a prude, I was not digging through that virus to find what font our mascot MVP was.
Maybe some instructions on how to work the sprinklers in case they go off during a game or something.
Somewhere I have the old sprinkler like interface, like from the 70s. It's like the dials and stuff. I stole a bunch of stuff from Bakersfield when I left.
That needs to go in the Blaze Hall of Fame along with that cocktail napkin that has the original logo on it.
And Roger the Dodgers head.
And Roger Dodger head and a Brooklyn Dodgers hat.
Yeah. And the stat line for Mike Piazza, who played with the Bakersfield Dodgers, who everybody watched. Everybody in town saw Mike Piazza. And remember seeing a 60th round catcher who's the godson of Tommy Lasorda play baseball. Everyone remembered that as soon as he got to be good.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now we're name dropping. And so I do want to bring up Bakersfield's most famous fan. When Jeremy and I showed up in Bakersfield hoping to meet, because you told us it might be a possibility that we might get a chance to meet Fred Willard, the actor. He was a regular at Bakersfield Blaze games, and you got to interact with him.
Yeah, well, sort of. So I assume he lived up in Tehachapi, or he lived somewhere like on the mountain outside of town. He didn't live in Bakersfield, but he would roll down one side of the mountain to the Jethawks game. And other times he'd roll down into Bakersfield to a Blaze game. And when I say roll, I mean, this man did not look like a Hollywood star. He showed up looking unshaven, like a loose, like dirty, like button-up shirts, shorts, and flip-flops. Like the first time someone was like, "Yo, that's Fred Willard," I was like, "Does he need $1? Can I give him a hot dog?" But he just showed up at a game, and because I was generally managing to assist everybody. Part of my job was to do the on-field games. So I was the guy who did, I'm on the microphone doing the mascot race or whatever. Anyway, so I'm on the field trying to do this, and Fred Willard is sitting there. Like, you have to tell jokes in front of Fred Willard. You have to entertain Fred Willard. It was stressful.
Yes. I can only imagine that like having to perform in front of Fred Willard, who is hilarious, right? Like totally hilarious. And if you don't know Fred Willard, go look him up, because so
but wait, before
sorry,
since we're name dropping, since we're talking about Fred Willard, I must tell you, since I want everyone to know that one night he was there with a friend. He looks pretty good. The guy's name was Mike. He was a head writer for SNL at some point in his career. I don't know which Mike. I don't know which SNL head writer. But I would stand outside after the games with a handful of pocket schedules, because Bakersfield Blaze games were attended by no more than 120 people. Like on a good night, we had a solid 500 people. So I would stand out front and I would literally hand pocket schedules to every person that walked out the gate. And I would say, "Hey, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to watch us. Come and see us tomorrow night. I guarantee a win. I guarantee to win every single game." I didn't say who was going to win. I just guaranteed them that somebody would win. And I was never wrong. But I was standing there, and Mike and Fred walk out. And his friend, this Mike guy, he says, "Hey, man, you're pretty funny." And Fred Willard said, "Oh, yeah, he does a great job. He's real funny." And I was like, "Oh, Fred Willard said I was funny?" And I was like, "That's me." I felt like Kermit the Frog going on with Hollywood. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm Fozzie Bear in the Studebaker. I'm out the way, man.
This is the headline on the resume right now, Fred.
It's legit in my cover letter. It's awesome. In my cover letter that Fred Willard said I was funny. And I don't want to like be named drug, but the Charleston River Dogs are in part owned by Bill Murray,
Sure.
the actor. And he didn't tell me I was funny, but he did tell me I said weird things. And I thought, close enough.
Also a compliment.
He also gave me $200 to shave once. So that was cool.
And you shaved.
For $200? Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. So one more story that I want to share about the Blaze here in particular is at this game that we attended, there were essentially two ways to keep cool. One was to eat ice cream out of a helmet. Yeah. I got my orange helmet with the mascot MVB script B on the front. And then you sent us away with like 10 more of those, by the way.
I hope you traded them for something good.
I only have one now, so I guess I must have, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's a hot ticket. I might have some more here if you need some more.
I mean, listen, I'm never going to say no to that. But the other way to keep cool in Bakersfield at a game is to participate in the ice water bucket challenge or whatever it was. And so one of my favorite baseball memories at any baseball game is when you and the Blaze mascot Torch dumped a significant amount of ice water. Was it Torch or was it?
I'm almost certain it was Heater.
Oh, it was probably Heater.
Because Heater, and I don't want to like tell anyone there's no Santa Claus, but there are people in those mascot costumes. They're just like normal. Well, they're not normal people, but the person in Heater was a very good friend of mine who lived in San Francisco, and would catch ride shares from San Francisco to Bakersfield just to be the mascot for a week. I don't even know that we paid him in anything other than, I don't even think we fed him because he's vegan. And what are you going to feed a vegan in Bakersfield? So it was definitely Heater because he did not like to miss fun things like that.
Okay, well, this very definitely kept me cool. I got to go out on the field. You did a whole announcement about, like, here's Paul Caputo from sportslogos.net, and he's participating in the ice bucket challenge. And you dumped ice water on my head, and your photographer got a terrific photo of it, like the team photographer, whoever that was.
Yeah.
So I'll post that on Twitter for everyone to see, me getting dunked on field at a Blaze game.
It's funny now that we're thinking about that. That seems kind of dangerous to dump a bunch of ice water on the field of play. Like, I imagine we were in the warning track, which was like loose gravel, but still,
we were on the grass right behind home plate, and I'm pretty sure that it was like evaporated and gone within, about.
Right. Well, a fun thing about Sandlin Ballpark though is it could be 110 degrees at 9:00 at night.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and I don't know the science of this, and if there are any soil scientists out there listening, the infield and the grass would get more wet as the night went on. Like, water somehow came up from the earth and kept the infield wet, and then the outfield as well. And I don't know if it's like, the riverbed was dry. They had like diverted all the water for irrigation, so there wasn't water in the Kern River. But for some reason, the water table or something, I don't know. But at 10:00 at night, the field was like soaked.
This sounds like the beginning of a Pierce Brosnan movie here. This sounds like a disaster's about to strike.
Well, there was a lot of disasters on that field. I don't know how much high A baseball you've watched, but
a lot. I've seen a lot of high A baseball. But this brings me into the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about, actually, which was after I was sitting there soaking wet, and it probably would have dried out fairly quickly. But you said, "Hang on a second, I've got a shirt for you. This is a shirt you have to have." And you took off running, and you came back.
Bill G don't run that much, I'll tell you what.
But you came back. You brought back the shirt for a team called the Bakersfield Outlaws.
Yes, the Outlaws. Man, I'll tell you what. There were a lot of. There are a lot of. The Blaze is a fine name. The Dodgers or whatever. They were the Mariners for a year or two. They had been the Badgers, the Indians, the Bakersfield something else. At one point, they were called the Bakersfield Boosters.
Oh,
because I think like they were a co-op team in like the 50s or so.
Okay.
And so they were just called the Boosters, which is a great name. I literally think the Boosters supported that team. Anyway, the Bakersfield Outlaws, after the Dodgers left the Dodgers were there in the early 70s, and they left in like 77 or 76. And then they came back in 84, I think. But in between, there was a independent California League team called the Bakersfield Outlaws. And for people who don't know, outlaw music, your Merle Haggards, your Buck Owens, Red Simpson, all these guys are from Bakersfield. The Bakersfield sound was the antithesis to the Nashville sound. So the Nashville sound baseball team is named after, of course, the Nashville sound in country music, which had like a lot of orchestration and violins, and it was very big. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, Willie Nelson moves to Nashville. He gets into Nashville. You know, he writes all these songs with the Nashville sound, but he doesn't go anywhere. I don't know. At some point, Willie Nelson gets drunk in Austin, lays down in the middle of the road to die, get run over. He doesn't, and he's stripped away all the sound. Bakersfield catches on to that. Merle Haggard gets in there, and they come with the Bakersfield sound. It's honky tonk. Dwight Yoakam still does it pretty good. So outlaw music. We're the Outlaws, not affiliated with the motorcycle gang. And the logo was hands down the greatest logo in the history of baseball. I will say it once. I'll say it again. You can come fight me on Twitter at Philip G. I am not wrong. It's the greatest logo in the history of baseball. And do you know why? Do you want me to tell you why?
I think I know what you're going to say, but I want you to say it. I'm dying for this line.
Spurs. Cleats with Spurs. The man is wearing cleats that have Spurs on them. He's wearing like cowboy boot cleats with Spurs. Oh, it's the greatest logo in the history.
It really is the best. Like, honestly, it's such a great logo. It's just like very like detailed sort of cartoony illustration of a cowboy hat guy and like you say, he's wearing cleats with Spurs on him, it's
you know, everything is just like in this, it's got like a really good 70s like trucker keep on trucking, you know, like vibe to it. It's just like it's really, really good. I don't know who designed that one. That one's definitely not, you know, some kid in the stands.
No, that was a sort of ornate illustration, and I'll post it on Twitter here and you know, make sure that people have it. I want to give you a platform here, because I know that sometimes these conversations can be a little one-sided, especially with Ed Rivera of the Dad Hat Chronicles being a frequent guest on this podcast. I know that
Are you friends with Ed Rivera?
Ed and I are friends. Yeah, absolutely.
He seems like a really nice guy.
He's a very nice guy.
And like, I think I could be good friends with him.
Absolutely.
Despite our deep cultural differences, our ideological differences in hats.
Yes.
He's wrong. Everything about that man is wrong. I'll say it now. I'll say it again.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm with Ed on these hats. I am team Dad Hat here, but
you know,
but I want to give you the platform here in our last few minutes before we go to expound on your philosophy that is contrary to our espousing of the dad hats.
So I am, and I don't want to like, you know, I don't want to brag or nothing, but I am a new dad. I'm about at this point 2 months into being a dad. Beautiful baby girl. She's wonderful. She's, you know, great. Everything about it's great. Dad hats, not cool. You look like a dad in them. If you're gonna wear a hat, I want to say, and I only wear, like, I probably have like close to 200 hats at this point. And they got like a good structure. They're high, they're crisp, the brim is flat, you know, and I'm not saying like a flat brim, like, you know, like I'm Jay-Z in like 2005. I'm talking old man, high trucker hat, just crisp with like the foam front. And it just sits on the top of your head. It sits on the top of your head and defies gravity. It defies the elements. You could ride a bike and it won't fall off. How it works, I don't know. But it just sits high. And like I said, I'm a big man. You know, I'm 6'4". I'm 6'5" in boots. You know, and now I got this hat that's at least 3 inches off my head. You know, the higher the crown, the closer to God is what they say.
Is that what they say?
I mean, I don't know who they is other than me, but I'm trying to start it. I might start a Twitter account.
You could start the podcast for the Flat Brim Chronicles.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's just when you have a, like, you're wearing a dad hat right now.
I am. I'm wearing the Yakima Pippins right now.
And Yakima Pippins, and even he looks like he's wearing that. the apple looks like he's wearing a dad hat.
It's a whole Inception thing going on right here. That it's a dad hat with an apple wearing a dad hat on it.
Yeah, yeah. And you look like you've worn that hat in pretty well. Work the fields, you know, you put a lot of effort into breaking that hat down.
Literally, it arrived in the mail today.
That's not right. I own several hats. I started in Bakersfield. I got a brand new black Bakersfield Blaze hat. I started in Charleston. I got a brand new black Charleston River Dogs hat. By the end of my tenure, I own 2 leather hats. There's I put work into them. I dusted home plate with them. I filled them with water on hot days. I eat popcorn out of them. I put work into those hats, and now I own 2 dad hats that are just busted. They smell bad. My wife won't let me wear them around the house. You know, but you got to put work in, man. You got to earn these dad hats. You can't just show up and be a dad. You got to earn that.
I have to say, I very much respect that. And Baseball by Design, it's a big tent podcast here, right? It's, you know, I all viewpoints on hats are welcome here. I respect the wear and tear that goes into those 2 hats that you owned. And
so what do you do when you wear and tear your hats to the point of like total beat? Like, do you get new ones? Do you go out and buy like a new?
No. I have a few hats that are really like worn, thin, and faded. Like, I mean, I love a good faded hat, right? Like, you turn. I have my Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs that like, it's like a pink hat basically, right? Like, and then when you open it up or you look underneath, it's this dark maroon that they sell their hats in. So I have some hats. You know, I run in the hats. I wear them into the ocean. I mean, I do all sorts of things with these hats now. Or have always. I just, I like the curved brim. I like the soft, unstructured top. I like how it fits. But I don't need it to look like a new unstructured hat all the time, right? Like, I need it to, I want it to feel good on my head.
I mean, I know you're a runner. Didn't you run like 6,000 miles last year?
I did not run 6,000 miles last year. I did run 1,400 miles last year though. So
1,400. You can get across the state of Florida with that. I assume. I have no idea how wide Florida is, but
I have run 4 full marathons.
Yeah.
And
you buy a brand new hat, you bend up the bill. I'm telling you, man, by the end of one marathon, you'll have a dad hat for the unstructured. You can earn that, man. I believe in you.
Philip, this has been one of my favorite conversations. You're one of my favorite people in baseball. I feel like I can say now that this is the second time we've done this because I screwed up the recording on the first time we did it.
I wasn't going to tell nobody. That was our secret, man.
It was a secret until right now, but people who have listened all the way till now deserve to know. But I really appreciate you coming on twice. I love these stories. This has been honestly like so much fun to revisit these. My experience in Sam Lynn Ballpark was honestly one of my favorite baseball experiences ever. And it was because of getting to share that evening with you. It was really totally fun.
Well, and as a representative of the now defunct and baseball hell resident Bakersfield Blaze, let me say, we appreciate you coming out. We appreciate you giving us press, to giving us a chance. So many people did not give Bakersfield a chance. That, we were a joke. And when we went to the winter meetings, like, it was a scene, man. I'll tell you what. And especially like you go up with Rancho Cucamonga. That's a professional outfit. You know what I mean? Like, San Jose Giants. That's they're owned by the Giants basically. They got all the money and all the goods. I did almost get into a fight with their entire bullpen once. We'll share that for a different story. But like, the California League has some legit, like, decent front offices. And then there was us. And so nobody liked us. Nobody wanted to talk to us. And, our reputation was well earned. But, sometimes you would show up, and if you wanted to give us a chance, I'm going to give you the full chance.
Well, you totally did. It was a fantastic experience. And I appreciate you giving us the chance to tell all those stories tonight.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I will meet you at a Train Rovers game, and we can go up to the press box with Tim, and we can make more stories.
I'm going to go talk to Tim right now. Philip, thank you for doing this twice. I really appreciate it. We'll talk soon, man.
All right. Awesome, man.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm very happy now to be joined by Tim Wheeler, who was the statistician for the Bakersfield Blaze for the duration of their tenure in Bakersfield. from when they were founded in 1995 right up until they left. That was at 2016. Is that right, Tim?
That is correct. We were contracted at the end of 2016.
Okay. And Tim is still at Bakersfield's former ballpark, Sam Lynn Ballpark, that Philip and I certainly just talked about some, where you continue to be the statistician for now the Pecos League's Bakersfield Train Robbers, which is a great nickname. That's a team that's moved around in independent baseball.
In addition to being the official scorer out of Sam Lynn, I'm the official scorer for Cal State University, Bakersfield Roadrunners. I am the basketball statistician, men's and women's basketball at Cal State Bakersfield, football statistician for Bakersfield Junior College, basketball men's and women's statistician for Bakersfield College, as well as an off-ice official with the Bakersfield Condors, the AAA affiliate of the Edmonton Oilers.
That is an impressive resume. Absolutely. How many in the years that the Blaze were there? How many games did you miss?
I missed a total of 6. My first 1,439 were consecutive, and then unfortunately I was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh no!
And they had to do basically surgery within a week. So in the past, I was able to put off some surgeries like an amputation or dealing with a couple of abscessed teeth, but this was very serious. There was a blockage in my colon, and so that streak came to an end. So I missed, it was either 5 or 6.
So with all of that going on, you still only missed 5 or 6 ball games. So that is some serious dedication, and you've seen an incredible amount of baseball. Do you have any particular highlights, any memories from Sam Lynn Ballpark that that really, especially as it pertains to the Blaze, anything that really that you conjure up right away?
Oh, right away. First, my favorite team of all time. Now, you got to remember, I'm there 22 years. The 1996 team, which was a co-op team, their record was 39-101. They lost their last 22 games of the season. The only thing that ended that streak was the fact that the season came to an end. The manager was Greg Nettles.
Wow.
It was a team made up because prior to 1995, we were affiliated with the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers pulled up, moved to San Bernardino, and Major League Baseball in 95 gave us a bunch of strike players. Remember, there was the strike of 1994, and they were going to start 1995 with strike players, but they got that settled, but they had these guys under contract. So they basically, those that still wanted to play were sent to either us or Visalia. And in 95, it was primarily Dodgers and Indians. 96 was a cornucopia of players. We had 11 different organizations send us players. Now, the first half of the year, they won 25 out of 70. Not bad considering that, again, you've got 11 different teams.
Yeah.
The problem was if a player did well, the affiliate would pull the player, send them back to their affiliated club, and not send anybody back.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So the second half, our roster started to deplete, and we were down to 12 players at one time. So my first story deals with the 12-player roster.
That's incredible.
Oh, it is. And I've got I don't know if you can see behind me, but I've got every score sheet from 1995 through the 2021 season. Okay.
That's incredible. You've got a whole shelf full of binders with all the score sheets from all those teams dating back to the 90s. That's incredible.
There's some interesting names there, that have come through, Buster Posey, Mike Trout, so on and so forth. Guys that came through the California League. But anyway, so first story is the Wayne Edwards game. We're down to 12 players. 4 of them are basically pitchers. So the pitching was getting real thin, and our general manager, Jack Patton, he was talking to Nettles, and Nettles like, God, I'm going to have to throw the third baseman tonight. I've got no arms. And Jack said, well, let me call Wayne Edwards. He played for us in 95, and he had a couple of years with the Chicago White Sox. So I'm in the office when he makes the call to Wayne, and Jack goes, hey, Wayne, we're short on pitchers. I can pay you $250. Can you make it up here, and give us at least 7 innings? And he goes, Jack, I'd love to. I'll be happy to do it, but I'm working for an attorney and I'm serving a couple of subpoenas. But after that, I'll make it over the hill and show up. So I went into what I call Operation Stall.
Yeah.
So not only do our games start late to begin with, but
Yes.
now this day, it came time to turn on the lights, and there's like 8 light standards, and wow, 2 of them didn't come on. And then I walked over to the house where the sprinklers are, and the sprinkler in right field came on for a few seconds. So now I go back to the electrical room it was real quick with the water.
Yeah.
And then I go back to the electrical room. I shut off all the lights because they're old school lights.
Yeah.
So shut them all down, and then one at a time I would turn them on. We're just stalling. We're stalling, but finally we had to get the game going. So the sun was behind the sunscreen. San Jose was pissed off at us, but we finally got the game. I think they knew what was going on. So we activated our pitching coach. His name is Blake Green. He was 44 years old, a former minor league pitcher whose pitch is a knuckleball.
Yeah.
So we activate him to start the game. Well, in an inning and 2/3, he walked 7, did not give up a run.
Unbelievable.
Right.
I'm like running the numbers in my head. How's that even possible?
Well, it was just a weird night. So anyway, Wayne finally makes it nice. We all kind of went outside the press box. We see him, jogging in, goes down to the clubhouse real fast, dressed real quick, got out there in the with 2 outs in the top of the second, no warm-ups,
Yeah.
other than the 7 rate that you're allowed, and he finished the game, and we lost 14-2.
Oh my gosh. You should have left Blake in, it sounds like.
Well, yeah, but then we would have been done about 2:00 in the morning. I think
Yeah, that's true.
pitch count up to 7. The catcher never handled a knuckleball.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one story. Another one is I won't mention his name, but we had a starting pitcher. This again, and this is all in the second half. All the fun stuff happened in the second half of the year. But we had a guy. He was getting shelled all the time. It was nothing for him to give up anywhere between 8 and 18 runs. 18 runs if we were on the road.
Yeah.
In High Desert or Lancaster.
Yeah.
Well, this game we're in Bakersfield. He gives up 12 runs in less than 2 innings.
Yeah.
Nettles goes out to get him, and then as he's walking toward the clubhouse, all of a sudden, myself and our assistant general manager, Susan Wells, we saw this petite little girl bolt up out of the stands, run over to the gate that leads to the field. I kid you not. She took off her wedding ring, fired it at him.
Oh my God.
I go, did I just see that? And then she just turned around and walked away. So stuff like that, you can see why 96 was my favorite team, because you never knew what was going to happen. You knew that, and it was actually fun. Stuff you don't expect to see at the professional level, even though it's A-ball.
Yeah.
We had another guy did a Trevor Bauer, Nettles. He gave up like 10 or 12 runs in the first inning at High Desert. Nettles goes out to get him, reaches out for the ball. Pitcher turned around and fired it over the left field wall.
Oh my gosh.
Nettles released him before he got back to the dugout. He would not let him on the bus. A booster had to take him home.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's incredible. Yeah. What a story. What a story.
Great year.
Well, so this is sort of what my experience was like when we went and saw a game there in 2014. My friend Jeremy and I, as part of our baseball palooza road trip, Philip Guiry just showed us around, and it was just story after story after story after story, and so much fun. Such an amazing, place for baseball memories, right? This incredible, it's easy to pick on a a stadium for being different or, less glamorous than others. But the stories at Sam Lynn Ballpark were amazing. This podcast is about branding, right? So one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, as someone who saw basically 3 generations of logos from 95 to 2000. You had the one that Philip tells us was sketched on a napkin by a season ticket holder. And that's my favorite of your logos. And then from 2001 to 2010, you've got the sort of graffiti logo with the flaming, it looked like a butterfly to me. I think Philip said it was a flaming pot leaf.
Sure, yeah, call it a butterfly. You go right ahead.
and then
that's what we told people it was. It was a butterfly.
A flaming butterfly. And then in 2011 to 2016, you had the sort of generic script looking logo. But I have 2 questions for you regarding the brand for the team.
Sure.
The first one is, I know there are different theories out there. There are different stories. Do you know where the nickname Blaze came from? Why were they called the Blaze?
Okay. Jack Patton, who was the son of the owner and the general manager, I asked him that question. And what he told me was at some point, him and the assistant general manager, Susan, were driving back from Riverside. That's where they were before. And according to Jack, there was a fire at the side of the road. And either him or Susan said, wow, check out that blaze. And the way Jack told me was, boom, the light went off and that became the name. So that's the story I was told.
That's like Paul McCartney getting song lyrics in his dreams, right? Like, what an amazing story there. Just the Blaze.
Yeah, Mother Mary came to me. Yeah, I get it. So, whether, that's true or not, that's the story I was told. And now they did have a name the team contest. Mm-hmm. And somebody submitted the name Blaze, according to Jack.
Okay.
The fact that the guy who submitted the name was a longtime season ticket holder,
mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not. But again, that's a story. Jack is the one that said that he actually, because I asked him today, prior to the show, who drew up the original logo, which to me is my favorite.
Yeah.
And he said he drew it up.
Oh.
So I'm not calling anybody else a liar. Maybe Jack did draw it up on a napkin. Maybe a fan did, but according to Jack, he was the one that came up with that logo.
Okay. Well, this is the nature of oral histories, right? They sort of shift and change over time. So maybe that fact is lost to history. I would love it if that napkin existed somewhere, though. Wouldn't it be great if there was like a Blaze Hall of Fame and the napkin was there in a glass case? That would be fantastic. So these 3 different generations of the logos, you mentioned that you liked the original one first. I've actually got that on a t-shirt. I bought it when I was there in 2014. And then, like I said, you had the sort of graffiti flaming butterfly, and then you had the black and orange script. Was there one that you felt like was sort of a fan favorite? Was there one that the players liked the best? Was there, is there a most popular version of that Blaze logo?
I think it depends. The middle one depends upon your sense of creativity. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was made at about the artwork was done at 4:20 in the afternoon. Came out of Colorado. A lot of teenagers and college kids. They seem to like that hat. I think older people just thought it was like some designed by some kid on a skateboard.
Right.
And I think that's what they were going for. But to me, it looks like a burning marijuana leaf.
Yeah, it does. It totally does. 100%. So there's no
trying to be polite, throughout the 420s and the.
Yeah, no, with the name Blaze and the flaming pot leaf, I think that's sort of that's hard to miss, I think.
Yeah, great marketing point. We're blazing out at Sam Lynn Ballpark.
Well, I do like all of the Philip and I went over the stories about the sun setting over the center field wall, and then obviously the time when you were playing the Rawhide. I guess it was the Visalia Oaks at the time when they spread gasoline on the field to set that on fire. So
1982. Yeah, that's a great great legend. That is true because I looked it up and verified it. The microfiche in the paper many years ago when I was researching Bakersfield baseball, and sure enough, they wrote about it. And everything you heard was true. He suggested, yeah, pour some gasoline on it and that'll dry the field. And somebody did. But yeah, that sounds good.
That's hilarious. That is too funny. Tim, thank you so much. This has been an absolute blast. And if I make it out to Bakersfield, I'm coming to see a Train Robbers game, and we'll hang out in the press box together.
Hey, I'll have company.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tim.
All right, bye.